an amendment motion before the Senate. This could be a game changer, if at all. If we could go by the numbers we are seeing and how they're playing out right now with the newfound alliance between ODM and Kenya Kwanza, we could actually see push towards this direction. Do you think it's just a distraction, that probably we are paying too much attention to something that's inconsequential?
Firstly, politicians have a way of waiting until when our attention is drawn elsewhere for them to sneak in some funny laws that benefits them. And this could be one of those instances. But again, it is also good to be fair to the system and ask, what informs the decision to increase the term? There has been argument that in our electioneering period, which is 5 years, we spend the first, after forming the government, we spend the first 1.5 years fighting on who won and who did not win. Firstly, we go through the legal process of petitioning the presidential win to the Supreme Court. A decision is made. Still after that, we spill over to the streets through demonstrations, and after almost a whole year, then we come to some sort of consensus that we can share this thing and peace reigns supreme. Then shortly thereafter, 2 years into the government and 1.5 years to elections, we all hit the road campaigning. So there has been that argument that it takes us like 2 years or 3 years to serve the people. The rest is spent on campaigning or fighting. A lot of economic suffering, as well as short time to serve the people. But then, is the solution to increase the term? Increasing the term is accepting that this is who we are, we can change. So as a result of it, then let's create 1 year for fighting and 1 year for campaigning and 5 years for serving the people. Essentially, this is what the politicians are telling us. Politicians have a way of avoiding the necessary tough work to be done.
So basically, it's a way of trying to accommodate our bad manners.
It is sanitizing our bad manners.
I've heard, Njeri, I've heard even suggestions that if we get to a possibility of a referendum, we should consider even changing how the deputy president position is appointed and make it an appointive position and not a running mate, where he can be fired or hired at the whims of the president, simply to accommodate our bad behavior. Do you think this is the best way to approach any possible constitutional amendment?
If you were to ask me the approach we would do for such a case for the deputy president, whether they would continue being an elective running mate or an appointive position, I would narrow down to even going back to county governments, where sometimes the deputy governor take into the impeachment of the governor for them to go up the ladder. So I think if it comes to such amendments, we should not take them to appointive positions. Instead, we should make it independent elective positions. Just like a governor runs, so should a deputy governor run. Because at the end of the day, the mandate and the power belongs to the people. And sometimes when you just come in simply because somebody else was fronted, because in most cases we've seen people who have been deputy governors simply because the the governor was liked, but the other person was not really the ideal person to be the deputy governor. And sometimes superiority comes in between them and things go away, just like we are seeing in the case of the president and the deputy president. And when it comes to constitution amendments, there are way more disturbing issues with the Kenyan people that need to be amended rather than political part of it. In that constitution, there are so many things we can amend to make better the lives of Kenyans before we even talk of political amendments, because at the end of the day, we need to ask ourselves, why are we always considering the politician, not the common Wanjiku? Why are we always considering increasing the term of politicians or making their time in office more freedom, more of everything that they want to get, privileges and everything, increasing their budgets, giving them luxury? at the expense of common Mwananchi. I wish we would look into constitutional amendments that can work for the Kenyan people.